It's my pleasure tonight I was to bring a newcomer speaker to start the meeting, and I have to admit I didn't really think about it until today. That I'm supposed to be bringing a newcomer speaker, but the first guy that came to mind honestly was Bill, and so I texted Bill and asked because we just talked at the Magnolia speaker meeting last night. We'd seen each other at meetings. And to put this in perspective, just the way AA works, Bill has just started in with the book and working the steps with the guy, his sponsor, Brando, or some people know him as Brandon. And Brando is sponsored by a long-term AA sober guy named Matt, and Matt is sponsored by me. So that's 4 generations represented with Bill here tonight. So Bill, come on up and yeah.
Hi everybody, I'm Bill. I'm an alcoholic. Hi Bill. So like Kenny said, I'm new in this round of sobriety. I had accumulated some time before this. I was missing a couple of major points, and today is day 95. Up until 95 days ago, my prayers were quite a bit different than the way that they are today, and the honesty that I had with myself was also quite a bit different. I used to pray, and I've been praying for 20 years that God would help take this away from me and let me be sober the next day, and that never happened. Maybe for a couple of days, maybe for a week. 3 months one time with my first daughter's mother, we insisted, and I put together that much time. But otherwise there wasn't like any amount of appeal. I think the book says someone frothy appeals. I made many of those to myself, and it never worked, not even close. And so I quit with that kind of prayer, and I just started praying that, I don't wake up, just let me pass away in the night and be done with it. And that just led to me being upset first thing in the morning, every morning. Just still on my couch, still TV still on, probably half a beer left, which I would finish. And I have a bed, and I have a nice bed to sleep in, but I never would find my way to it. And roughly 95 days ago, I started praying a little bit differently. I had some things happen that led me to truly admit to myself that I was an alcoholic. I just finally admitted that I really just cannot stop on my own will. Like, despite all those years of that it didn't really set in that was a truth for me. It was the first time I got sober, I had the court system forcing me to be sober. And a year in jail was a pretty scary proposition. And that allowed me to get sober, or at least abstain, but I constantly obsessed over it. And my solution to that was to just throw myself into AA, but throwing myself into AA really only meant just going to a lot of AA meetings and having a lot of service positions and doing just enough of the steps that I felt were tolerable to me to do. My biggest, longest prayer was the Serenity Prayer, which I said a lot, and it was helpful, but I had no idea what this program was all about. And I wouldn't have told you that then either. Like, especially after a year or so of being in and hearing the stories so many times, and I thought I had it, and I knew it. The first time that I really needed to draw on the principles in AA, I really didn't know what to do because the Serenity Prayer didn't cover it, and I didn't have a spiritual connection to my higher power, and I really did none of the steps. I mean, I had a sponsor take me through them all, but I didn't practice any of them daily as a rule of life. And so about 95 days ago, I admitted I was an alcoholic, and I started praying again, but I started praying differently. I started praying to be able to see God's hand in my life, and started praying that He would provide me with people to assist and be helpful to in the world. And I didn't understand at all how that is supposed to help me stay sober, but I was listening to speaker tapes on YouTube, and a fellow that I guess at that moment I just said, you know, I'm going to do what he said to do. I think it's pages 84 through 88, the 10th and 11th step. And I said, okay, I'm going to do those, because I do remember hearing that any of the steps that start with the one, you can do no matter where you are in your sobriety. So, okay, I'll do that. And that morning would be 96 or 5 days ago. I'm not sure how that math plays out, but I got on my knees as soon as I woke up. I said my prayers. I reviewed what my day was going to be like. I asked for guidance, and I went about my day. And when I got home at night, I realized, you know, actually I hadn't obsessed about drinking today. Crossed my mind a few times, as I was a delivery driver, and I would drink all like while I was doing it, and there'd be different stores that I would love buying from there because, you know, they had my drink and it was cheaper, and even though I had been in them and passed on it and I thought about it, didn't obsess about it, and that lasted. Well, it's still lasting. But I didn't make the correlation until about 9 days into it that, holy mackerel, like, this is 9 days that I honestly haven't obsessed over alcohol. And this entire time I'm doing my nightly inventory reviewing, and I even did some things that I had never done, and I'd never even understood why should you do this. And that is to call a sponsor or to call a friend in AA when you're reaching hard parts throughout your day. And I did that because this time I was willing to just do what the book says to do. And don't question things, just do it. And I did. And lo and behold, for example, I was at the dentist's office wanting to get a tooth extracted. I was in a lot of pain, and they couldn't do it at the time, or it was looking very tenuous. And I called my sponsor, and he calmed me down. And I was able to sit down long enough for them to go, okay, we do have it. Because I was about ready to, I'm out of here. I know what does work immediately. And that would be drinking as much alcohol as fast as I can. And that's, you know, obviously that worked for me. I preferred having the problem solved by a dentist and not prolonged by drinking. And I saw that just doing what the book tells me to do, it works. And I mean, obviously it works, right? There wouldn't be so many people in Alcoholics Anonymous if this didn't work. And I don't know why I fought it so much, other than to say that I don't think that I ever really admitted to myself that it was an alcoholic. despite everything, I was about 24 years old, and I've ridden BMX bikes pretty much my whole life. And the bike shop owner asked me if I would like to go to AA meeting with him, and I'm sure, you know, I'm open to things. I'm an open-minded person. But I have no idea why you're asking me to go. And I went, and I knew the owner was a little bit religious. And so in the meeting, I hear God and higher power, and so that's why he wants me to get into his religion. Because I didn't know what AA was. I'd heard the words Alcoholics Anonymous, but I didn't know what it was. And so I determined, okay, there's two things I took away from it. Okay, this is some type of religion, and two, I'm not an alcoholic. I don't have to, I don't wake up in the middle of the night having to drink because, you know, I can't make it to the bathroom, or I can't function until I drink. That's not me. I don't hide bottles throughout my house. I'm clearly not an alcoholic. I only drink beer every day. From the time I'm off work to the time I go to sleep. So I always left about a half can in there. And I always drank it in the morning, but that's not enough to do anything to me. So I just didn't want to be wasteful, right? But I've had lots of those instances in my life, all the way leading up to about 3.5 years ago when the court forced me to come here. And even at that point, I wasn't forced into this program because I had done anything surrounded with alcohol and drugs. I've never had a DUI. I wasn't in court before that. And so I had no idea like why I should take that seriously. These people just don't know me. They just don't know who I am, right? Like, and even my outpatient treatment place gave me the most lenient sentence. They gave me early intervention, 4 weeks of sobriety is all I had to pull off. And I ended up spending the next 1.5 years in and out of the court with 30 UAs and having my potential not guilty finding be revoked and found guilty for a crime that I didn't commit. I honestly didn't commit it. Because again, it was just so hard to admit that I had any problems with this. And I remember hearing somewhere along the lines that, you know, when you come back to AA, you don't lose everything that you've learned along the way. And I also heard somewhere that it takes what it takes. And I feel like, you know, it took me 2.5 years to complete step 1. But that's what it took. And, you know, I don't know if I'm grateful about that. I wonder if I should have had this catastrophe come down on me, and then maybe I would be standing here with 3 years. But at the same time, you know, I'm entirely grateful that it happened the way it did. And there's one thing that I used to hear all the time in Alcoholics Anonymous that used to drive me crazy. Like as much as I went, as much as I loved all you guys, I could not get this idea why anyone would say that they're grateful alcoholic. It was like, are you kidding me? Why would you not want to be a sober person that has a normal relationship with drugs and alcohol? Why would you want to be an alcoholic? Like, that's just insane. I now understand what that means and why everybody was saying that. At least for me, what it means for me is that if not for being an alcoholic, I wouldn't be on a journey of trying to know myself and trying to be a better human being and trying to show up in the world better. I'm grateful that my problem isn't solved with a surgery or a pill or, yeah, I'm glad that this is a journey, and I'm also tremendously glad that this is a spiritual journey. The religion that I thought it was, right? It's not quite a religion, but I have a connection and a daily relationship with a higher power, and I also have zero need to try to define that higher power. Where I had a definition of a higher power, I grew up a Lutheran. I was confirmed as an adult. It's my choice. And I didn't like that God. And I really love the God that I have that doesn't have the definition. Because there's no way in the world I can define what it is or how it is that I don't have a mental obsession with drink anymore. And I can't define why I am so blessed. I have like an amazing job. I was 6-7 weeks ago terrified as to how I'm going to get a job that will afford me the money I need to do the things I need to do to get back into my children's lives. So I don't have an education, and I felt I was too old to return to my old trade, which is concrete. And here I am doing concrete again in the union, making top wage. And that came from standing outside an AA meeting, talking to a guy, and we were both talking about how we normally don't stand around and talk to people after AA meetings. And I can't explain that. And I don't want to. And I don't need to. I just need to keep doing what the book says to do. And never forget that I'm an alcoholic. And I cannot touch anything. And never forget that there's a higher power. And if I allow him to, he'll guide my life. If I can accept the direction that he sends me in, good or bad. Good or bad meaning my definition of what's good and bad. I think that's enough.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.